All right, thanks for tuning in again to the OFN Today for this Thursday, the 6th of December, 2018. I'm Greg DePalma, and on today's show, Teddy Sevransky is going to help me to preview 3 key NFL games for Week 14. We'll talk NFL playoffs, college football bowl season, and more on the OFN Today. All right, the OFN Today is brought to you by ourlads.com, providing the best pro and college football depth charts on the net, and covers.com, featuring live scores, stats, and odds. Considered the most convenient and entertaining source for sports news and facts with over 45 million visits a year. All right, so we got 3 NFL games to talk about, including big game between the Rams and the Bears. And actually, the primetime game's not bad again this weekend. So something to look forward to there. The college football bowl season gets underway a week from Saturday. Army-Navy this Saturday. And we'll get Ted's handicapping tips for the college football bowl season. I'm sure anybody that does get involved with, I guess you can say there's a correlation between the college football, basketball, the bracket contests. There's some bowl contests out there, and I know it's kind of difficult to handicap bowl games before the bowl season actually begins, Ted. I know Mark Lawrence can do it because Mark's a trend guy, a trend stat guy. So he gets all his figures, he compiles everything, and he pretty much knows what he's going to do before the bowl season even begins. But I know you and Dave Koken a little bit different, and would I be correct in saying that you probably want to go about this one bowl game at a time?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the way I approach bowls is there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of reading the local papers and sensing what teams are excited, what teams aren't, what matchups have attracted a team's attention, and which ones haven't. And none of that is stat-based. None of that is trend-based. All of that is nuance, and the only way to find that info is to dig. That's been my strategy and philosophy for a long time, and it's paid some pretty good dividends over the years. So I'll do it again this year. And there's a handful of stuff that stood out to me early, but I haven't gone nuts with bowl season by any stretch of the imagination, and I won't until the games start, creeping around, which we'll see next week at this time, obviously, with the bowls starting on December 15th.
Do you take any credence into whether or not you're into the second week of the bowl season and you notice that one conference is doing really well and another conference isn't?
It's something I use more in March Madness than I do in bowl season.
Okay.
And it's simply because the matchups are so different. You say, all right, well, this team's 3-0 against the spread the first week. Well, all right, they had 3 patsies and everything broke right for them. I don't think it necessarily means as much moving forward, whereas in college hoops, you really find, hey, this conference is an undervalued commodity. This conference is an overvalued commodity. In college football, that seems to be a little bit more random, although, certainly betting against Pac-12 teams last year was a pretty good moneymaker, and we may well find a conference like that this year as well.
Yeah,
but I'm not expecting to find it the opening weekend.
Yeah, probably too early for that. As far as I guess the parts that really do make sense when you're going into handicapping the games early, at least, and now more than ever with players that are just declaring for the NFL, they're not playing in the bowl games, and obviously if they're declaring for the NFL, they're pretty good players, and not having those talented players as part of the team. That's significant. So this is really the first time that we're experiencing this many talented players that are saying we are not playing in the bowls.
Sure, and it's something you have to be aware of because remember when the star player sits, when N'Keal Harry sits says, all right, well, I'm healthy, but I'm not going to play for this bowl game.
Yeah.
How does that affect the rest of the Sun Devils? How does it affect his teammates? Well, this guy's not one of us.
Sure.
It's not the thing that you want for internal locker room chemistry.
True.
So you see the betting markets react to the news itself, but the bigger issue sometimes is what's going on in the locker room when the star players sit. And that, Harry for Arizona State stood out to me as one that this guy should be playing, and his teammates are noticing that he's not there.
Yeah, so there are a good size number of players that have already decided not to play. And then you've got the coaching changes. Like for next Saturday, you've got Matt Wells no longer coaching at Utah State. And then several other coaches, including next Saturday, you got Scott Satterfield leaving Appalachian State. So that comes into play. Have you noticed how that's done historically in the bowl season, interim coaches?
Team-by-team basis, and that's where you find your great info. Is this team pumped up? But a lot of times, the head coach has gone, all right, hey, we love this intern. This intern's an assistant that, we have a better relationship with than we do our head coach. We're coming to play for this guy. That happens all the time in bowl season. On the other hand, you see, all right, well, here's and I'm just going to use the Green Bay Packers, even though we're talking college, because it's a great example. All right, well, we fired the head coach, but now the new guy coming in, well, he's not anyone that has a relationship with anybody on the squad, and it's not like his stuff's been working all year. Yeah. You find positives and negatives, but there's one thing that I definitely want to point out here. The media, as they do, is going to fixate on the easy stuff, the head coaches, what head coaches are leaving. The money-making stuff is the coordinators. The coordinators are the ones who design the game plans. The coordinators are the ones who call the plays. The coordinators are the key elements for bowl games and bowl prep. Head coach is a figurehead, He comes out and looks good and talks good and all of that, but it's the coordinators who do the actual coaching. The good head coaches pick good coordinators. Follow those coordinator coaching moves. They tend to be, A, less represented in the marketplace, and B, they tend to mean more when it comes to actually winning or losing these bowl games.
Yeah, the one that probably sticks out to me might be the BC-Boise State game. BC hasn't played well at all down the stretch, and their coordinator is taking the job at Bowling Green. So I don't even know. I guess Loeffler's left, right? I don't even know if has he gone? Do you know if Loeffler's gone?
I'm not sure offhand. That's something that I haven't looked at yet today.
Yeah.
But another one that stands out. You talked about Utah State with Matt Wells.
Yeah.
Leaving. Well, his coordinators are going with him, and most of his assistants are going with him to take the Texas Tech job. So you want one team that there are major issues on the coaching staff right now. That would be the Utah State Aggies.
All right, yep. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that we can get into, and we'll be sure to do that next week for sure as we go into these games. So, including, which may even be more impactful, are the longtime head coaches that are leaving, Paul Johnson at Georgia Tech, and, of course, Urban Meyer at Ohio State. So, Urban Meyer's last game with the Buckeyes. You think the Buckeyes, the players, will be up for that game?
You think the money's come on Ohio State since Urban Meyer announced it? It hasn't trickled. It hasn't poured. That has been a flow of Ohio State money. Remember, that line got bet down off the opener.
Yeah, I'm surprised about
Washington
that.
Off the opener.
Why do you think that was bet down, though? What was the reason for that?
Defense. The Huskies, you look at the teams.
Defense against offense. Okay.
It is when you talk about where that first salvo of bets is going to go, the first salvo of bets is going to go on the defensive-minded underdogs.
Okay.
And you saw it across the board.
All right.
Over the long term, the defensive-minded dogs have done fairly well in bowl games, and obviously that is reflected in the early market activity.
Yeah, I'm now that you say that, it does remind me that I'm very interested to see how this Haskins kid does against Washington's defense because as I was talking earlier today on another show, I would not touch Dwayne Haskins in the first round if he comes out. No way. Because he hasn't proven himself when he has to deal with a pass rush. I mean, he is a completely different, like every quarterback, but the really special ones, the one that you draft early, they have to be able to handle the pressure. I don't trust him to handle the pressure. He doesn't ever usually have to deal with pressure, so he's really going to have he's going to have a good performance. That's going to be a great opportunity for him to prove to everybody that if he does get pressure against that Washington defense, that he can make plays.
On the other hand, Jake Browning has been, nothing but a disappointment.
Oh, awful.
Let's call him what he is. I cashed a ticket with Washington last weekend in a game where that offense had no chance to score. The defense got me there, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Huskies defense. You will get a Christmas card from me.
Little bounce off the ankle. The football bounce.
Yeah. That game could have gone 8 overtimes. Washington wasn't scoring a touchdown.
Yeah. Neither team.
Browning is who he is, and that is a quarterback whose draft stock is falling by the week. I'll take Haskins over Browning in a New York minute.
Yeah, Browning, I don't even think he's going to get drafted, to tell you the truth. I think you and I have stronger arms than Browning. So, all right. Now, as far as the NFL goes, we are into Week 14, so 4 more weeks to go. And this is kind of the time where now that the college football season takes a little bit of a breather, playoffs, of course, will start in, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, college football playoffs? We got some time
the playoff. To me, the playoffs are just another bowl game. That's something that the mainstream media and your casual fans might fixate on the playoffs.
Yeah,
it's it's just 2 games.
It's 2 games,
and then one more.
And one. So So we'll get in. So we'll have more than enough time to preview the college football playoffs, and everybody can gear up for that. But the NFL playoffs now, we can kind of really talk about what's happening there. And you take a look at the AFC. We've got several games to talk about, and then we'll also want to go through the NFL and just kind of update the playoff picture and see where everybody stands. But talking about the AFC first, because out of the 3 games that we're going to handicap here today, none of the games are from AFC teams. We've known the Patriots were going to win the AFC East since before Week 1, so that's where it is. Houston, though, now, we pretty much know now that Houston is another playoff team. We know the Chiefs are another playoff team. Chargers proved last week they're another playoff team. And the winner of the AFC North. So that pretty much leaves us with one extra spot. And I guess it's going to come down to Pittsburgh. You got Pittsburgh, Baltimore. You look pretty good. They're both right now in the playoffs. You have Miami and the rest of those 6-6 teams, and I'm not sure if any of those teams have a shot. Denver loses Sanders. That's a big loss, so that's a little bit disappointing. Colts, I don't know whether or not they're a playoff team. I think they could be. If they are, they better win this week. So do you think that the 6 teams that are in right now are going to be the 6 teams that are going to make the playoffs in the AFC?
At least 5 of the 6, yeah. KC, New England, Houston, L.A., Pittsburgh. I think those 5 teams are in.
Okay.
The question is, and you asked me who are the toughest contenders, who are the biggest contenders. You talked about the injury for Denver to Thomas. I think the bigger injury is Harris at cornerback.
Yeah, it is.
You know? That's Denver ain't winning games with their offense. They're winning with their defense, and then when you lose a perennial Pro Bowler like that at this stage of the season, that's a huge loss for the Broncos. So I don't look at the Broncos as being that team. The question is, are we talking about Baltimore, Indy? I don't think Miami's that team,
no.
or Tennessee. Those are the 3 teams in the AFC that I think have some chance, some life for that final playoff spot. And the Ravens right now with the 1-game lead have the edge.
Yeah.
But of course, they're going to KC this week. They still have to travel to face the Chargers as well in Week 16. So it's not like the Ravens have a particularly easy path compared to the other 2 squads. Indy, they got to travel to Houston, obviously, here. But after that, Dallas at home, the Giants at home, and then the Titans in the season finale. And that game could very easily be one that determines who gets in and who stays out. Tennessee, of course, has the Jags on Thursday Night Football, followed by the Giants and the Redskins, and then Indy at home. So of that group, Tennessee probably has the easiest slate to reach the postseason, but are they going to get there? They got there. They found a way last year to sneak in.
Sure.
A 9-win team. Well, there'll be at least one 9-win team in the AFC playoff picture, which means that all 3 of those squads are very live. But Tennessee, Indy, Week 17 has all that potential to be play in, win, play out, lose. Type of contest.
Yeah, the whole Baltimore situation, because they do get to play the Bucs and the Browns at home. So you got to believe that they should be good for 9 wins. And that's if they don't even beat the Chiefs or the Chargers. They should be good for 9, which is putting pressure on those 6-win teams. Somebody has to win 3 out of the last 4. And then they have to, of course, get the tiebreaker on the Ravens. And that's only if the Ravens can't pull off an upset against the Chiefs or the Chargers. Because, again, I'd be very surprised if they lost to the Bucs or the Browns. But with Lamar Jackson, a quarterback, I guess anything's possible. If the Ravens decide to keep going with Lamar Jackson and it's Week 17 and they need to beat Cleveland, then anything is possible. When you got a rookie quarterback like Jackson, who basically is a one-dimensional kind of guy, I still don't believe. I really don't. My gut tells me that at some point in the next couple of weeks, could be this week, I just get the feeling that Jackson is going to do something pretty bad. He's going to turn the ball over early enough in the game where they're down a couple of scores. Flacco's going to be sitting there on the sidelines active. You're going to make the change. That'll be it.
It wouldn't shock me. I mean, look, there's been a lot of love for the Ravens. This is what the Ravens have done during this 3-game winning streak. They barely beat the hapless Bengals.
Mm-hmm.
Barely. They escaped in that game. They beat the hapless Raiders. They beat them by 17, but, they had two non-offensive scores in that game.
Yeah.
Fraudulent. Oakland was right with them on the field. And then last week they beat a Falcons team that, their season ended the week before, and they played like it.
Yep.
So it's not like Baltimore's beaten anyone of any consequence, of any good, during this 3-game winning streak. And yet, the media is, Lamar Jackson, look at the Ravens. I'm not sold on. I mean, let's not forget. You say, they got to play Cleveland. Cleveland beat them once already this year.
Sure.
And okay, the Browns turned the ball over 4 times last week. I don't see Cleveland taking December off. I think the Browns are coming to play. I think Baltimore, yes, they have the edge now. When all's said and done, I don't think the Ravens are going to be there. I'd say the Indy-Tennessee winner in Week 17 gets the final AFC playoffs.
Yeah, because one of the things that the Ravens have had a big problem with over the last few years has been closing, especially at home. They've had opportunities, including what happened to them last year. You can see the pressure that they would be on at home, just like last year, against a team that shouldn't, that season's done. And if they can't close it out against the Browns, then that would pretty much seal. We would know officially that it would seal the fate of Harbaugh for sure. And that would be.
To me, that's the most ridiculous thing I can think of. Like, John Harbaugh's a good head coach.
He is.
All right, Baltimore's not going to go next year and get a better head coach than Harbaugh. All right, this team isn't that talented. All right, certainly not on offense. They're not. I mean, you look at that defense. I mean, this isn't this from a yards per play basis, the best defense in the NFL. You grade out that defense personnel-wise, a bunch of guys they got in the 6th round. They've coached up. Harbaugh should not. It's not his fault that Baltimore loses. I'm a fan. I'll put it that way.
He'll be on the unemployment line for 2 seconds. So
yeah, exactly. Exactly. When you fire your coach and say, all right, well, and then he gets hired, they have 18 other guys waiting to interview him the minute he's gone. Maybe that's nothing. And I understand sometimes you want a culture change. Baltimore doesn't need a culture change. If the Ravens lose out, they shouldn't fire Harbaugh.
Well, they will,
in my opinion.
Yeah, but they will, because they just will. They're
no, not that. The one thing that's been one of the reasons that Baltimore has been more successful than most mediocre teams over the last decade and a half is because they have been patient and they have had a good front office in that regard. It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah. Again, I think if they don't make the playoffs, they're going to make a change, and it should be just for change's sake. But if they make the playoffs, then that's a completely different story. But I just get the feeling that that's talking to the people that I've been talking to there in Baltimore. Yeah, I think if they don't make it, they're going to move on. Look, I even think Mike McCarthy is going to get a job, depending on how many are open. I mean, if there are 5 or 6 jobs open, he'll get one of them. He'll be a head coach right away in the NFL. And I don't think it's because I think people are excited about him because he's young and innovative. But the guy's got a Super Bowl championship, and he's got all this winning success, whether you want to say Aaron Rodgers or not. Fact is, when you compare him against everybody else that's out there, his resume is going to look better.
Yes and no. I mean, the guys who are getting jobs, the guys who are the hot coaches, are the Sean McVays of the world, or the Kyle Shanahans of the world, the hot coordinators, and that's the next level of elite head coaches. So I know the guys will go after the tired retreads. They get hired over and over again. It's not as bad in the NFL it is in the NBA or the NHL in that regard, or even college basketball, where you're like, really? This guy was coaching a major program 5 years ago, and he could have retired, and now he's coaching Santa Clara. Knock yourself out. But those are the guys that tend to get jobs And Harbaugh at Michigan gets the same thing. It's like, Michigan the buddies. We got to fire Harbaugh.
Oh, my goodness.
Who are you going to get?
They're just ridiculous.
Who's the next guy who's better than that?
You don't even the people who even remotely have the idea about firing Harbaugh at Michigan are just completely clueless and not even worth.
What about Baltimore? Who's Baltimore going to get that's better than Harbaugh?
They're not. But again,
I know.
But that's just But see, the difference is that the talk has been about it. There's no talk in Michigan as far as, the administrative, the athletic director about even closely getting rid of Harbaugh. But at Baltimore, right. There's been talk about it. So you kind of like if it happens, we're not going to be surprised. We're going to say, well, it's wrong, but we're not going to be surprised. If they were to get rid of Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, it would be like the shock of the century. And then he's the guy that would be picked up immediately in the NFL.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Benefit for a fan like me that will have an opening for the New York Jets this year. So I'm the more the merrier as far as some good, because that's the thing. There aren't a lot of right now. DeFilippo is probably the biggest coordinator name out there, and yet after what I've seen from him lately,
I don't want him as my head coach.
Yeah, that would scare the hell out of me. The way he completely ignores the running game. So
not even maybe. Do I want DeFilippo's stock? Frank Reich's stock's gone up, and DeFilippo's stock's gone down.
Yeah.
Since the start of this season, based on two guys who were sky high after what happened at Philly last year. One guy's offense is still creative and forcing problems and converting on third downs, and the other guy seems to have lost whatever magic that he had. And then Minnesota's offense has not impressed me.
Yeah, no, and of course we talked about it last week with Minnesota and New England, and go ahead and go until Kirk Cousins can beat a good football team, home or on the road, and we're talking about teams that are above 500. Then fine. Then do it, and then we'll consider taking Kirk Cousins the next time around. Well, it didn't happen again. Once again, the Vikings offense, which relied all game on Kirk Cousins, thanks to DeFilippo, did nothing. And so now they're going to go to Seattle on Monday night. Another team over 500 that is red hot. Their confidence is through the roof. They've won 3 straight. They're 6-1 and 1 ATS last 8. They've got the home crowd. You got a dome team going to Seattle. Check the weather. That could come into play. It's Seattle on a Monday night. It's 3. So come on. I mean, do I really have to make a call here?
Well, the 3s are gone. The 3s are 3.5s. There's still a couple. I shouldn't say that. There are many 3.5s out there. There are still some 3s. I don't know that they're still going to be there by Monday night. I'll tell you that much. I thought all the 3s would be gone by now, and I'm just looking. And I'm like, no, there's a 3, there's another 3. So we're certainly seeing more betting market support for the Vikings than I expected to see. Of course, when you look at some of the yards per play numbers, you can understand why. Minnesota's almost a yard per play better on defense than Seattle. Seattle's been outgained by half a yards per play this season against the run. And we think about this Seahawks defense dominating against the run. Not good. And certainly not compared to Minnesota.
Yeah, but they don't have to worry about that with the Vikings. That's for sure, because the Vikings won't run. They won't. They don't want to run, even when their running back average is 9 yards a carry. We don't need to run. Yeah,
but but after the week where they didn't run and it cost them, this might be the game where they try to hand the football off a little bit more. One thinks.
You would think.
One hopes that coordinators learn from their mistakes, and it's worth noting and worth watching and paying attention this week. Is Minnesota going to change their game plan from, pass first to run first against a defense that has shown vulnerability? But I'm with you 100% on the Seahawks right now. They're certainly a team, you want to talk about good coaching jobs this year. They're under the radar. Pete Carroll, and there wasn't a person in Vegas that was bullish on Seattle. Right now they do look like a playoff team, and if I'm playing, I'm laying. If I'm playing, I'm laying on Monday night. I want the favorite, not the underdog.
Yeah, that's this is such a huge game, because if Seattle wins this game with the Vikings right there battling for that one of those final wild card spots, Seattle's in, because forget about 2 teams from the NFC East. So really, it would come down to and the way the Panthers are playing. I mean, come on. So Seattle wins this game, they're in the playoffs.
They're in good shape, but the guys. Russell Wilson's been insane this season. Drew Brees is getting all the love, whatever. Patrick Mahomes getting all the love. Russell Wilson, very, 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 very quietly, 29-5 TD to INT ratio. He's got the fourth best QB rating in the NFL. And he's truly an elite quarterback who, is a lot more elite than what Minnesota's bringing on the other side of the equation with Mr. Cousins to the table.
And by the way, that is their whole. When you talk about Carroll, whether you put him up there for Coach of the Year, when he gets Coach of the Year really was in the offseason, because he did something that not a lot of coaches do, especially coaches that win Super Bowls with their assistants. He said, this isn't working. He gets rid of Bevel, and he decides. So, in other words, he got basically rid of a DeFilippo. He got rid of a guy that wants to throw the ball all the time with no offensive line, like the Vikings. This ain't going to work. So he brings in Solari, he brings in Schottenheimer, and he goes, run the football. I got to run the football. I got to change my scheme. I got to protect Russell Wilson. He can't be my leading rusher. And look at what's happened. And that's why they're on such a roll now, that when you get a team that is, and we talk about this all the time at the beginning of the season, when teams are changing their schemes and coaching staff and players, it takes a time for them to gel. Right now, Seattle has gelled really well right now, and they're like running along nicely. They're very confident in what they're doing. And like you said, they also have Russell Wilson, and that goes a long way.
Sure. We're telling the Vikings, after Seattle this week, they have Miami at home, at Detroit, and then Chicago at home in the finale. So even if they lose this week to fall to 6-6-1, they got a decent chance of finishing 9-6-1. They could win out.
Yeah, matter of fact, I would bet that both of these teams will make the playoffs.
That's going to be hard because they both have to be wild cards. That's the two wild cards. Yeah. That being said, they're probably the two teams that are in best position to get the wild cards. Yeah, I wouldn't. Now that I'm looking at it, I don't. I wouldn't argue with that.
Carolina is probably the team. Don't you think Carolina is probably got? Oh, unless it's the Eagles.
Yeah, because Philly's, the Philly-Dallas thing is kind of interesting. After they play this week, they don't play again. I don't know. Carolina, I'm not willing to stick a fork in Carolina. I think Carolina beats the Browns this week, and that'll get them back on track. So I'm not going to stick a fork in them yet.
Yeah, Philadelphia, though, they could really put themselves in this thing if they beat Dallas. I mean, if they beat Dallas, I would think that then you've got a race between Philly, Dallas, and Minnesota. And then, you throw Carolina in there if they win. If they lose, they're done. But Philly, I mean, okay, they've won 2 straight. They haven't beaten anybody, but yeah, good. It's about getting their confidence back, and now they're trying to get revenge after losing earlier this season. This started the 4-game win streak and really turned around the Cowboys' season in Week 10 when they beat the Eagles.
Sure, they beat them pretty soundly, if you remember. I mean, they took it to them right at the line of scrimmage. Then Philly, the Philly's big second half last week against the Skins and third-string quarterback who was just signed off the waiver wire a couple of weeks ago. I'm not. The Eagles' issues in the secondary aren't going away.
No.
When you've lost your top 4 cornerbacks, I'm not bullish on Philly's chances to have a return trip to the postseason.
Neither am I. I think if they win this game, then they do something that I'm not expecting them to do, which is maybe they are ready to turn their season around, because the Cowboys are just playing. They're playing good football. And you can have all the Dallas Cowboy haters out there in the world you want. And, of course, the Dallas Cowboy fans are always going to be a little over-anxious to get their team. They're always going to say how their team is better than they are anyway. But the realist is going to go, look, the Cowboys are playing good football. And if the Eagles can beat a good football team on the road, then that changes things. So,
sure.
But I don't expect
the money
it
is coming on Philly, for what it's worth, here in Vegas.
Really?
It was 4, and now we're looking at 3.5, and the 3s are starting to pop up. So there's definitely been a fair bit of market attention put on the Philadelphia Eagles.
By the way,
market support, I should say.
The Saint loss doesn't do any. Doesn't change your mind at all about the Saints' Super Bowl aspirations.
No.
The
teams are going to lose games.
They should, right? Yeah, you can't expect them to go undefeated or
the Saints. The Saints are another. They talk about rhythm teams and rhythm offense. I really think that it hurts the Saints when they play Thursday night. They play back-to-back Thursdays. It took them all out of their rhythm. I'm not convinced they bounce back, immediately and dominantly, but I don't think that the loss last week affects their chance to win the Super Bowl at all. And you say, oh, no, they have to go to face the Rams in L.A. Okay.
Who cares?
The Saints can't win a road game in the postseason.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that at all. No.
Yeah.
Especially with the Rams having to win a game with the pressure on them again at home. I'd probably take the Saints in that spot. Rams are at Chicago. Now, look, if the Rams lose to Chicago, then the Saints take over that number 1 seed. It's a 3-point spread. This is all about Trubisky, isn't it? I mean, come on. If Trubisky doesn't play, not even if Trubisky plays, like I'm going to be like, okay, I'm taking the Bears. But if Trubisky doesn't play, I mean, why wouldn't I take the Rams?
Trubisky's going to play. If Trubisky doesn't play, you're not going to lay. Let's put it this way: if you don't think Trubisky is going to play, you better lay 3 with the Rams because this line's not going off at 3 if Trubisky doesn't play. Because Chase Daniels no miss Trubisky.
No.
And the Rams didn't play well in Detroit last week.
No.
They really didn't. They were flat. They were out of sync, and they still won the game by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
which speaks A, to their talent level, and B, to the Lions. But Bears coming off a loss in which the defense didn't play well. I wouldn't. It's an intriguing game because I think Chicago's offensive line will have issues. Everyone has issues with Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh. But when you add in the Fowler pass, I think the Bears are going to have some problems moving the football in this game. That being said, Vic Fangio's defense with a challenge, I'm interested. Vic Fangio's defense off a lousy game.
Yeah.
And they got plenty of playmakers.
Sure.
I got to lean under in this one as much as the side. I think the 2 defenses have potential to be the difference makers on Sunday night.
Yeah, this is actually, to me, this is probably going to be this could be a more well-rounded, better game than the Rams and the Chiefs. I mean, if you like Big 12 football, glorified Big 12 football, then you loved that game. But this is a better, really, matchup. You got the defense against the offense. You got it outdoors, which could be a big deal. If it's at night, it's in Chicago. You got a Los Angeles team. So this could be a bonus, obviously, for the Bears if the weather works in their favor. Yeah,
though the early weather conditions, I'm just pulling up the forecast right now, and it's taking a second to load. But I looked earlier in the week, and it wasn't supposed to be that bad in Chicago. Of course, out here, you can always tell when it's freezing and raining in Vegas and L.A., that means it's usually nice in the Midwest at this time of the year. Yeah, temperatures, in the in the 30s. It's not going to be particularly nasty at Soldier Field, and a little bit of wind, but nothing ridiculous. So when you talk about nasty December football,
no, I mean still 30s, still cold for LA players. That's still cold.
Yeah, sure, no question, but. Yeah. That's an angle that honestly it hasn't really worked that well. We talk about the warm weather teams going north, and they can't play there. It does happen. It has happened, but in terms of if you, as an angle, all right, I'm going to bet against all the warm weather teams that travel to cold venues.
Sure,
it doesn't play out.
Well, this will be this is the first test for the Rams in this situation, so we'll see how they handle it. I mean, it's not going to affect them in the playoffs because the only team that they could possibly be on the road against would be the Saints anyway. Yeah. So this kind of weather situation won't affect them even if they don't play well. All right, if you did have a team that you would look at in the NFC to make the playoffs that's not in right now, who would it be? Would it be the Eagles? Would it be the Panthers?
Carolina. Right now is your time to buy on Carolina. The markets are crashing on Carolina. Everyone, the Panthers stink. Everything's falling apart, and maybe it is. But if you want to buy low on a talented team, I think this is the week to do it.
All right, Ted. Appreciate it. Looking forward to talking to you again for Week 15. And by the way, and once again, though, you don't have anything for the bowl season. You just
there's a whole bowl package up at Covers Experts. Absolutely, you can get every play that I release for the entire bowl season, and with one package over at experts.covers.com.
Okay, but you'll release the picks as the games come about.
Oh yeah, I'm not putting out 15 plays right now and saying okay, go bet them all. No,
yeah.
No.
Okay.
As we do the work and as the plays come into place, that's when I release them. So
all right, sounds good. Enjoy the Army-Navy game.
I probably won't even turn it on. I have no action on it. But let's put it this way: I don't want Navy.
Okay, why is that? Why don't you want Navy?
They're awful. Army is
Better.
Army got a chance to win Commander-in-Chief trophy, man. It's a big deal.
Yeah. Matter of fact, that's actually probably one of my favorite bowl picks already is Army against Houston. That's only like 3 right now. So, I mean, come on. They're not even playing Ed Oliver. They don't have their quarterback. They don't have Ed Oliver. And Army's having a great season. So.
And Army's coming to play. That's one thing you can count on.
That's right. That's important in the bowl season because you got to get the teams that you know want to play, and that's not always easy. Ted, I appreciate it. Enjoy the football. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Greg. Have a great day.
Take care. All right, that's Teddy Covers, and you can follow Teddy at Teddy_covers. Teddy will be with us and has been with us every Thursday throughout the football season. And let's see, what do we got now? We got a couple hours from now. We're going to be talking more college football. So our NFL talk is over for the week. And again, you could check out our on-demand shows. We had Dave Koken on from Covers on Tuesday. We did the Thursday night game tonight. That's tonight. So we talked about the Tennessee-Jacksonville game on the Monday OFN Today with Dave Koken. Yesterday with Mark Lawrence, we did 3 other NFL games. We did New England, Miami. What did we do yesterday? New England, Miami. We did Kansas City, Baltimore, and Houston, Indy. So those are the other NFL games that we handicapped on Wednesday's show with Mark Lawrence. And that's it. We'll talk more college football, though. And by the way, of course, we did talk college football. We had the Army-Navy. We did some breakdown of that one. I believe we did that yesterday with Mark. And then Dave, Mark, and Ted have now given me their handicapping tips for the bowl season or some observations of things to look out for. So you could check that out on any of the shows this week. And then next week we start handicapping and breaking down all the bowl games. So we'll look forward to doing that. Now, college football, we have one more show to go for the week, and that is our OFN College Football Weekly with Mitch Light from Athlon Sports. That's coming up in a couple of hours. So we'll dive deep into what happened last week, the playoff matchups, early bowl talk, of course, early playoff talk, coaching changes, rumors, and more. So that's coming up with Mitch Light on OFN College Football Weekly. And that'll be our last show here on the Our Football Network for the week. For Teddy Sevransky, a.k.a. Teddy Covers, I'm Greg DePalma, Alpha Mike Foxtrot.
Take the power back. It's time